All right, anybody that has gone through a divorce knows that co-parenting, man, is so hard. You got to eliminate ego. You can only control what you can control, and it takes a while to learn that. So we got one Bert Show listener here that's really upset and not exactly sure how to handle one situation of her co-parenting deal. And it has to do over the kid going to school on a bike. Mm-hmm. Kristen's got the email. Then we have an attorney on ready to talk about it.
Dear Kristen, I hope you can help me or provide me with some recommendations. I have a court date coming up where it will be discussed whether I can let my 9-year-old daughter, 4th grader, ride her bike to and from school alone. I am a divorced father, and I share 50-50 custody with my ex-wife. When my daughter is at my house, I allow her to ride her bike to school alone. Distance, 0.9 miles, time, 4 to 6 minutes in a very safe area. We were going to court to discuss a change in our current schedule. We went to a mediation meeting, and after an hour, I left as was planned. My ex stayed and continued to address issues with the court mediator in private, which, by the way, is totally illegal since in mediation, both parents must be present to address any issue. During this time, she brought up the bike ride issue, as she is not okay with me letting our kid ride her bike. A week later, I was shocked when I received the court papers and saw that the mediator had included this issue among his recommendations to the judge. He states that my daughter shall not ride her bike to and from school without adult supervision. If the judge does not rule against this recommendation, it will most likely become mandatory for me. Court hearings are so fast that it's very common that all recommendations become judicial orders. I would like to know how I can address this and defend my right to allow my kid to ride her bike. I respect the justice system, but I don't think a judge or court mediator should rule on this issue. Is there any documentation or law that I can use as reference during the court hearing? I do not have a lawyer because at this point, the custody is already resolved, and we were only supposed to be addressing a change in the schedule. Thanks for any advice you can offer, Jonathan.
Man, this is a really tough one because, as I've said before, at least for me, the transition into co-parenting is so difficult because you don't really have control of what's going on over at the ex's house, right? So you can have a say, that's for sure, but the final decision on their time mostly isn't written in any agreement. So you really have to sort of like negotiate it with them. And if they don't want to do it, then you're sort of out of luck. He feels like this one is dangerous. So he feels like it's worth fighting for, where mom's here is like, it's not. So for him, this is worth going to court over.
Yeah, so his daughter can ride her bike.
Right. Alice Benton here is a family law attorney at Benton Law. Hey, Alice.
Hey, Bert.
I appreciate you joining us. So in a case like this, what do you do?
Okay, so a couple of things. I would like him to at least consult with a lawyer before he goes to court. He says that custody is decided already. These are just little tweaks to their parenting plan, but those tweaks are part of custody, so it's actually not over. Like you said, after your divorce, it's hard to control what happens at the other parent's house, but I think that attorneys generally do better in court persuading a judge than someone who's pro se. I think there are probably some good arguments why the child would be allowed to ride the bicycle to school on that parent's time. If it's in a safe area, there's no problems, the child is mature. It's all going to be very facts specific to that case. I think some of the issues that he had also were about, did the mediator do something wrong? And I think the answer is probably yes. And he can talk to, or she can talk to, the Georgia Office of Dispute Resolution, that's who controls mediators in the state of Georgia. They're only supposed to report either that a mediation was reached, a settlement reached, or there was an impasse, and send that into their ADR office, who then sends that on to the judge. They're not supposed to write down what the terms of anything were or recommendations. They don't represent either side. They're just simply a neutral. So all that commentary probably was improper, so that this parent who's upset about it can talk to the Georgia Office of Dispute Resolution. They have a website, and they can go to that website and look at what the rules are and how they can raise a grievance or something like that.
No, that's really great.
In the end,
That's huge.
yeah. In the end, though, I mean, whatever the mediator said probably doesn't really have that much of an impact on the case, because it's up to the attorneys or the parties, if they're representing themselves, to go before the judge, and the judge will make a decision. It's not going to be up to the mediator. They have no role as a lawyer in the case, and they're not the one deciding the case. So even if the comments that were written on the paper that was sent into the court said something, it shouldn't be persuasive. They're going to base it on the laws and the facts before them at the time of the hearing. But again, please let me tell this parent, go talk to a lawyer about this, at least do a consultation. There's nothing more important in parents' lives than their kids, and it's really worth the money that you spend to do it right.
Alice, we only have about 30 seconds here, but I think, am I making this up that at some point in this email he said that he doesn't really have a lot of cash for this kind of thing? So if you don't have the money for an attorney, what can you do?
Well, you can at least go do a consultation with the lawyer. There are a lot of lawyers out there that will talk to you about your case for free, and at least then you're armed with some knowledge or advice to go into court to represent yourself. You might qualify if you're low income, for legal aid. Try different avenues or routes. Call your local bar association. They may give you a referral to somebody who does cases on a sliding scale, if you don't have a lot of money. But I'm telling you, if you put the money into cars and phones and a nice house, and then put that same amount of money into your children, because there's nothing more important than your kids.
Amen to that. Alice Benton from Benton Law. Really appreciate your time. Thank you. You're pretty good at this.
Thanks, Bert.
Nice to see you now.
The Bert Show.
So first, thanks for watching. Second, you like what you just watched? That just scratches the surface. Get the Bert Show on any podcast platform. We're so good.